gentlemen, welcome to Leadership and Politics with Dr. Abraham. On the show with me today is best-selling author, Miss Brenda Bence. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abe. It's a joy to be with you, as always.
You have a new book coming up, The Forgotten Choice, and it will be a shame not to share that.
Look at you.
Let me see. You
Yes,
have it?
absolutely. Yeah.
Not to share it with the audience, The Forgotten Choice. So congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I would like to go with the premise. What's the book all about? What's the forgotten choice? Whatever you can share with us.
Sure. The forgotten choice is a choice, a little known choice that we forget we have. That's why it's called the forgotten choice. At every moment that can actually impact the future of our finances, our health, our work, our career, our personal lives, our relationships. It's a constant choice that we have, and it's a choice between a place of being in fear and a choice of being in a place of possibility. It sounds so elementary, but it is so foundational. And when we embrace that and recognize it, it changes our trajectory of our entire lives, careers, relationships, future.
Very nicely said. I'm very famous by telling my students, clients, executives, I tell them life is how you make it. What resonated with me is your mindset. You put it in writing and you put it in a guide. I preach it. You put it in a guide. This book, Forgotten Choice, it's true, as you said, how to harness that magnificent mind that you have, but also it's a guide for others to do things and move from one mindset to another. This is not an easy thing to do.
Well, here's the interesting thing, Abe. We can look to others can interact with us. We often act a little bit like victims sometimes. I'm a victim of the world out here. I'm a victim of others and how they're treating me. I think we woefully underestimate how much we are in charge of things. We really are in charge of things. We are creating our lives more than responding to them. We tend to respond to what happens and think that's what's life. But I actually, in this book, you'll understand and walk away realizing we are in charge. And it all starts with, as you just said, the mindset. And it really is the foundation of everything. It's that mindset. It begins there and it changes that. And I walk through a process of how it changes everything, where we get to, and how it does really impact our futures. I mean, it's as simple as that, but we forget it.
It's because of what's happening on the outside.
Yep.
And this mindset, is that a level of convenience that we're in? We just enjoy this moment and we never try to get out of it?
Well, I wish we enjoyed this moment. I think often it's not the case. I think we're actually in a place of fear often. Very often we find
there's awareness. There's awareness.
Awareness is foundational. Just being aware at any moment of time. Am I in that place of fear? Or am I in a place of possibility? Now, interestingly about fear, we think we know what fear is, right? Fear, the fear of falling, fear of heights. That's not what I'm talking about. That's instinctual. That's something we're born with. Fear is actually something we learn. But fear can also be very stealth, can be quite hidden. For example, people pleasing. Well, we do that because we think we want to be good to others, but it's steeped in fear. Because if you look underneath it, what's in the base of people pleasing? It's that sense of, if I don't do this, they won't love me. They won't take care of me. They won't like me. They won't be. That's just one example. There's so many of these that we have that are hidden fears. I call them masquerade fears. So we have to be so self-aware, because if we're not, even those hidden fears will absolutely lead our lives without us realizing it.
Very true. Okay, so you have three things. They're the verbs: think, feel, and behave. You say think drives how you feel. How you feel drives how you behave. How you behave drives the results you get. Take me through these steps.
I think if humans came with an owner's operating manual, that's exactly what the first three lines would say. What you think drives how you feel. Now, none of that we see. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you're feeling. I have no idea of that, but that's the foundation. What we think drives how we behave. Okay, what we think drives how we behave, and how we behave drives the results that we get. So we look at behavior and results because that's what we see.
Yes.
And we spend all of our time focusing on behaviors and results, behaviors and results, behaviors and results. But we're not looking at the thinking and the feeling that's driving it underneath. And yet that's what's fueling it. So we really have to become, again, you use the word self-aware. We have to go into that and say, what am I thinking? What am I believing? oh my gosh, we are a walking bag of beliefs. We're just walking full of beliefs because of the time we've been entrained in society and our parents, and there was beliefs after beliefs after beliefs after beliefs. We are that walking bag of beliefs. And those beliefs are actually causing us to behave in a certain way that gets us certain outcomes. And we just can't understand why we keep getting the same upsetting outcomes all the time. Well, because we haven't changed the beliefs. We haven't changed the thoughts at the base.
And that's what you call the repetitive thinking.
Yeah, the rut of repetitive thinking. Absolutely.
call it.
We do. We have these same ruts, and they will just keep going like one of the, those hamsters on the wheels. They just run and run and run and run until we stop that wheel and recognize, aha, I have a belief. And then you have to say to yourself, is that belief true? Was it ever true? Was it true in the past, but it's not true now?
Okay.
The world's changing so fast that we have to question these beliefs on a regular basis.
Is it always fear that they're in, or there's another level of comfort? Because if somebody is within this status quo or the norm of society and they're happy with what they have, they might not have fear. They may have level of convenience.
Well, okay, so convenience, yes, but you have to ask yourself, am I inspired by that? Do I feel inspired? Again, what's the feeling related to it? Convenience can be comfort. That's fine. It's fine. But is it really? Often we find ourselves, I'll give an example. A gentleman walked into my office one day and he was 52 years old. He'd been an engineer his entire life. 52 years old, an engineer his entire life, quite high up in an organization. We sat down and I said to him, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is high, 1 is low. I could just feel his energy wasn't very high. So a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is high, 1 is low. What is your passion for what you do? He said 2. I said 2. How long has it been that way? He said 30 years.
Oh, that's scary.
I said, tell me, how does it, well, when I came out of school, people told me this is what I should do. My parents suggested this, society suggested this, so I went ahead and did it. Now you could say he's comfortable.
Yes.
But is he, right? But is he in a place of fear? I can't change. I can't step out of this because if I try to step out of it, or am I in a place?
Probably the stage of fear of number 2, because if he moved forward, he would have just went
exactly.
beyond.
And so that's my point, is be careful on the comfort. If it's truly comfort that's founded in a place of joy and potentiality, fine. But most of the time, often, comfort can be one of those, I better just stick where I am, because if I try to make a change, it could really upset the cart and then things might just fall apart.
Change the status quo. It challenges the establishment, challenges the norms.
And it's scary. It's scary to do that. This is what my
faith is. This is what my organization's culture is.
And my family told me to be like this. I should really.
Who would we like to be with? Who makes a difference?
Well, I guess what I want to say, I want to point out one thing that's important. There's no right or wrong, good or bad in any of this. I think that's extremely important to remember. If someone's beliefs bring them joy, then stick with them. If someone's beliefs and faith and habits really jazz them, then stick with it. If they inspire you, stick with it. My point is, often we fall into habits and beliefs that based on what we think we're supposed to be doing. And there's a sense of obligation to it instead of a sense of potentiality of what could come from this. And the truth is, unless we're in that place of potentiality, we're not creating.
You dedicated the book to
the joy of possibility.
That's the joy of possibility.
The joy of possibility.
Yeah, the joy of possibility. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. Well, the joy of possibility is, I often say, it's so funny. We're very good at fear, Abe. We're very good at fear. Like if I talk to people about fear, they can go on and give me a full list of all the things they're afraid of, or they can talk in very, very deep attention about what fear is and what fears they have and how they've experienced fear and this and fear and that. We're very good at fear. But when I ask them to say, pause and answer this question, what's the opposite of fear? Most people freeze.
Do they know?
Most people don't know. I mean, I honestly pause. I had to think about it for a long time when I started working on this book.
What do you tell others? What's the opposite?
So ultimately for me,
I read the books, I know.
Because this came through from a lot of interviews with a lot of people. It came down to a sense of what I call it the joy of possibility. It's got potentiality in it. It has got creation to it. It is where we're evolving. It's an evolutionary thing. It's that I've got possibility ahead of me and there's a joy with it and I'm going to create from that space. So it's got a freedom to it, a lightness to it. And that's what I think the opposite of fear is. I call it the joy of possibility.
Okay, that's a good term, but how do we reach it? How do people reach this joy of possibility?
Well, here's what's interesting.
What layers do they have to get rid of to not fear anything?
Yeah, well, here's what's interesting. We're born with joy of possibility. Why do we love to be around babies? Because they're just such clean slates. They're such pure joy. They're just full of possibility, potentiality. We learn fear. So joy of possibility is our natural state. We learn fear. We learn fear. Don't touch that stove. Don't talk to the neighbors, right? All these things that we've learned, don't do this, do this. You must be married by this age. You, as a woman, you have to be able to do this. As a man, you must be able to do that. We have all these fears placed upon us and there's like gunk on the outside of us. And so we ask questions like, well, how do I get to the joy of possibility? How can I break through all this fear? The truth is joy of possibility has always been inside of us. It is the one foundation that has been there since the time we were born, but we've covered it up with a lot of fear.
Fear, you call them fear, but is there another term for them? Is it possibly regulations, guidelines, rules, norms?
Well, yeah, so the reason I go with fear is because we remember the way we think drives how we feel. Feelings are foundational to us. As human beings, we are resonant human beings. We resonate, right?
We always go to the basic because we're programmed that way.
Exactly. So the point is we have to go with feelings. And so I want to go with fear because it's a feeling. I'm fearful. I fear. And joy of possibility, which is also a feeling. So that's why regulations are the external things, and how we respond to those regulations is our choice. That's our perceptual choice of how we want to respond to that. It's our choice, but we can choose to respond to regulations with fear, or we can choose to respond to them with curiosity, objectivity, joy of possibility. How could I look at that differently? That's what I'm talking about, the choice.
So the mindset you're working on and want others to reach is to emphasize the inner emotions. When you feel something, you say it drives how you behave. You feel mad, you isolate yourself. You feel happy, you join. You become more inclusive with others and you want to join them.
We've been programmed for years to be a certain way, to believe certain things. So trying to make those changes quickly is people think it can be challenging. Actually, you can do it quickly, but most of the time it takes time to reprogram. It's like you're trying to unscrew something, that's been screwed in very tightly. We have to kind of work our way through that. But you mentioned a few concepts that are worth talking about in depth. The inner and the outer parts of being a human. As I said, we typically look at the top of that list of 4 things: think, feel, behave. We look at behaviors and results. We typically look up here. And so someone looks at us and said, he scowled at me and he made me mad. No, he didn't. Your perception, your interpretation of that scowling is your choice. Yeah. You could look at it and say, oh, I have such compassion for him. He clearly must not be having a very good day. I'm going to do something really nice for him right now. That's a perception. That's a thought and a feeling. We have this choice at all times. It sounds, again, so elementary, and it is. That's what's beautiful about the idea. It is elementary. So we have to watch the inner, the outer. It all happens inside first, and that impacts how we respond outside. And we've been learning this since the time we were children.
True. But the self-control, this level of self-control to say, another example, if somebody's talking about you, 2 ways you can do it. You get mad, or you can say, this is none of my business. That's his choice.
Well,
so
yeah.
Tell me about that control. How do people, emotional intelligence and stuff, but how do people reach this control to say, we're talking about the mindset? It doesn't matter. He's talking, so it's his choice.
But I guess what I'm saying, there's an alternate place that I have. If this is fear and this is the joy of possibility, there's this alternate place that helps us shift that. And I go into much more depth on this in the book, but I call it the place of objective curiosity.
Okay.
You rise up out of fear. First of all, you have to recognize, you have to have that self-awareness to say, aha, I'm in fear. And how do you know? You know because fear doesn't feel good. It's that simple. If you're feeling disgust, anger, frustration, irritation, anything that has anything to do with that sense of just unease, you're in fear. It's that simple. Are you feeling excited, or are you feeling muffled? Are you feeling, anticipation, or are you feeling this sludge of, the same old, same old? It. We all know fear. We're very familiar with it. We've been training ourselves for years.
Yeah, sure.
For years. So you have to remember, okay, I'm in fear. Got it. Now I have to make the choice. Do I want to stay there, or do I want to shift? And interestingly, it's a hilarious choice, but we often choose fear. Because it's just so much more comfortable. We know it.
To go back to the basic point.
We know it.
How do you break out of that? How do you break out of that?
So here's what I'm saying. So we have to make that.
That's what I call status quo. That's what I call status quo within an organization. So let's shift to the organization. So these are the individuals. Now, the same thing happening within a status quo within an organization. We need a change agent. In a book like this, your book, The Forgotten Choice, tells us you can become a change agent. You can become a change agent for yourself. You can become a change agent for that community, society, organization. How do we change? What mindset are we advocating for? To get out. I want this fear out. I want the listeners to say, okay, how do we do it?
How do we do it? So as I said, you're in fear. You have to make that choice. You have to recognize it. Aha. You have to pause long enough to say, am I in fear, or am I in the joy of possibility? It doesn't feel good. I must be in fear. Okay. And by the way, anger, there's so many things related. Everything that comes down to fear. I'm in fear. I want to choose. I'm choosing to be otherwise. It's going to be really hard to shift automatically over to joy of possibility when you're not trained to do that. I'm at a point in my life when I can do that, but that's because I've trained myself through years of doing it. But over here, you get into this place of what I call objective curiosity. It's like being an anthropologist on the wall, and you're just looking down and kind of watching from the outside what's happening, and get factual. Get factual. What happened? This person had a particular look on his face, and I interpreted it a certain way. That's the fact of what happened. Now, I could choose to see that differently. If I'm going to look at it from the lens of joy possibility, put a different set of glasses on through the lens of possibility, what are all the possibilities of what could happen? The gentleman's had a bad day. Maybe he had something in his teeth, and I interpreted that's where he was just trying to get it out with his tongue. We don't know. Yeah. We make up stories. We conjecture. We come up with drama. We are so good at conjecturing drama. Instead, Severin say, you know what? So I have a choice. I'm going to choose to look at this from a joy of possibility lens. And that's another human being that is reaching out. We're all reaching out. We all just want love and affection and support from others. That's all we want. It's that simple. And so I'm going to be the person that I'm sure that person probably wants me to be. And I'm going to reach out and say, how you doing? Are you having a good day? Is there some way I can help you today? Now, when it comes to the organization, Abe, you said to be a change agent, there's only one thing. I promise you, it's this strong. It's be your own change. Don't we worry so much about other people. Well, he did this and she did that. And that group in marketing, did you hear what operations did? We're so busy focusing on others. We tend not to focus on ourselves. And the real change comes from ourselves. It's really that simple.
From within.
From within. You want to make change in the world? Change yourself. Change yourself, because you will impact more people than you realize.
You can change the world the way you want it, positive or negative. Be negative, your world is going to be negative. Be positive, your world is going to be positive. I like that. I like the mindset. In a book like this, Your Forgotten Choice has guides. You put a system in place. You have the pyramid. I've seen the pyramid there. Put the fear-based pyramid and the JOP-based pyramid. Yep. The job-based pyramid, both based on think, feel, and behave, and result. Think, regardless, what you think clearly is what you are and what you become. Creating your future is easier than you think. There's a lot of positivity in your book. Where does your mindset came from?
Well, it comes from the place of, I have to look at myself. So Leo Tolstoy, I love this quote of his. We mentioned it during the symposium. Everyone wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves. And true. It's true, right? We're all out to save the world, but the one way to do it is to focus here. And so I realized that a few years ago, and I thought, I'm going to work on me. I'm a coach, right? I'm always helping other people work on what they want to work on. And I said, well, I'm going to change me. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to work on being the best me that I can be. And I realized, I've studied and reading, and it's like, it starts here. It starts here. Now, this is the good news.
How about
Dave.
here? How about?
Well, I'm going to
tell me about that. Link those two.
It starts here first and then goes to here. Remember, what we think drives how we feel. That's the order. So we have to go with mindset first. That's going to elicit a certain feeling. That feeling is going to elicit certain behaviors. So when I realized that, I said, okay, well, the good news is who's in charge of this? And who's in charge of this? Me. There is no one who can make me think anything that I won't want to think. And there's no one who can make me feel anything that I don't want to feel. Those are choices I make. And sometimes we feel like we're victims, right? We're victims to this way that person acted or said, or we're victims to how they made me feel this way. No, I chose to interpret how that person acted, and I chose to respond in that way. This is that's where that objective curiosity, you have to step out of it and look at it and say, what's the truth? What do I know to be the truth? What's the facts here? And just over the years of working at this, you suddenly realize, aha, now there's a really easy way to do this too. And I talk about this in the book as well. Client comes into me. I'll give you a leadership example. A woman came in, she was a leader she'd just been surprisingly taken over as leader of this big organization. Didn't know it was coming because actually the president unfortunately passed away. Okay, got very ill and passed very suddenly. She became the leader. Now, she had leadership concerns and challenges and beliefs about herself as a leader that weren't helping her. And so we uncovered those and realized they were fear-based. We said, okay, well, now we're going to move into joy, a possibility-based leader. What would it be like? And you could say, I'm not a great leader. I don't know how to lead. I'm really incompetent, imposter syndrome, whatever.
Yes.
So I said, okay, we're going to try to get over to here. And so the obvious way would be, see, I'm a great leader. I'm a really good leader. She's not going to believe that. You don't make that shift that fast. It's not going to happen. So what we decided to do instead was to focus on, I am learning to be. I am learning to be a great leader. I am learning to be a wonderful spouse.
Is this a line she has to say every night or?
Every day, every moment.
She has to believe it.
Well, and that's easy to believe. If you're learning to ride a bike, when you fall down, you don't beat yourself up. You just go, okay, I'm going to get back up on the bike. When we're learning to walk as a kid, when we fall, we don't go, oh, that's it. I am staying seated. I'm never getting up again. Of course not.
Yes.
I am learning to, it's fine. I am learning to become a great leader. And when you're learning something, what does it mean? You're going to make mistakes. There'll be times when you just fall off the bike and you don't do a very good job of it, but you're learning, and learning is a journey, and a journey that you have a goal towards the end. And so what happens is I am learning to eventually creates itself where I am learning to, and I am learning to, and eventually you get there. So that's the kind of transition to help you get from that place of fear over to that place of potentiality and possibility.
How long did it take her to become that I am a leader or I'm a good leader?
She has become a great leader, which is really exciting. The thing is, if we really focus on time, we've gone back into this kind of human fear thing, right? I have to be a great leader by December 31st of this year. Okay. And what happens is the fear comes back in. What if I don't do it on time? I have to speed this up. I'm falling behind on this goal. I'm just not. So we have to be careful, because if we put time dimensions to it, we start to fall back into that fear-based.
These fears, they sip in through because of us, because of the individual saying, okay, I'm not going to be able to do it on time. You allow these fears to come back, or we call them self-doubters, isn't it? These are
self-limitations,
self-limitations,
yeah.
self-doubts.
Yeah, self-inflicted limitations.
Self-inflicted limitations.
I always say, if we're not in the joy of possibility, we're in fear. It's that simple. There's one or the other, and they are binary. I remember once I was working with a client, and she was telling me about a particular colleague she wasn't getting along well with. And I stopped and walked her through this pyramid that you talked about. And I said, okay, now, which of these are you in? Are you in a place of fear? Are you in a place of joy, possibility when it comes to this relationship? And she said, oh, I would say it's a little bit of both. And I said, that's not possible, because you're either in one or the other. They are binary. They are not, there's no subsegment of both. They're completely different mindsets, completely different energetic sets. So one or the other. And we can flip back and forth, but it's never a combination. We are either in one or the other. And it's that awareness of where am I? Am I in fear or am I in the possibility state?
Okay. How do you maneuver through the different types of personalities? With people, you may have a leader that is fast-paced and fast talker and just boom, boom, boom. When you have someone who's cool and listens to this nicely elitist thoughts, how do you maneuver through this?
Well, it's funny. I remember a CEO came into me once. We were early on in our work together. I had him do an assessment, just an easy 10-minute online assessment, and the outcomes came back. And I remember looking at the outcomes. I had had a few sessions with him, and he was exactly as you mentioned, boom, 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 get her done, must make it happen right now, and the results I got on this test were not from his subconscious self, were not at all that. So I thought, well, this is going to be interesting, but an objective curiosity, right? That's our role as coaches. So I sat down and I said, here's the results, and here's the results. And he sat there for a while and looked at it. We talked about it, discussed it. And he said, actually, I think that's my real self. And I said, tell me more. He said, that's who I really am. I've learned over the years what a CEO is supposed to be like.
He's wearing a persona that isn't his.
And I embodied that. But the truth is, that's not who I really am. And so he began to shift back into his natural style. You cannot believe the outcomes. It has been so fun to watch because his just trajectory, the whole business has gone up. 75,000 people working underneath his fold. It's been extraordinary, the shift in him and how it's impacted the outcome.
So he has fear or still have fears before he reached or he found out self-awareness, before he became aware and you made him aware of who he is and the fear. I
just reminded him. And the thing is, we have to remind ourselves. That's what I'm saying. The joy of possibility is our natural state. So are we really being who we are, or are we being who we believe we're supposed to be? And this is so true in leadership, Abe. So true in leadership. In fact, I just posted something on a social media around getting people to remember what their first boss was like. Because I do a thing called Leadership Lifeline, where you go back and you look over time at the various bosses you had and the ones you really loved and the ones you hated and or maybe didn't like so much, and what were the characteristics of those particular bosses and which ones have you taken on. And it's fascinating. Our first boss has a lot to do with how we see leadership. I had a gentleman come to my office who was having trouble with his team. He was not well liked. Had done really well, always delivered well on the financials and the business, but he reached a point where the people side of things was really falling down. It was not working. And so we looked at his leadership lifeline, went backwards and realized that his very first leadership experience, really being in an environment of leadership, was in the military, where it was very hierarchical. You did what you were told. And so that's the boss he saw. And so when he became a boss, he just took on that style, that militaristic control and command. This is what you shall do. And it is about speed, get it done quickly. This is what I'm telling you to do. And of course, in today's world, that just doesn't work. That's what young people don't want that anymore. Maybe some, but most people don't want that anymore. And so it was about recognizing that you could choose to be whatever leader you'd like to be. You can choose to be however you'd like to be as a leader. There is no one size fits all that's going to work for anybody. Today, leadership is very personal. So we have to be agile leaders and adjust our style to fit what others need from us in the organization. That's the key.
Yeah, you adapt and change.
Adapt, yeah.
Talking to you never ends. I mean, I love talking to you, and we can continue and continue. I have a lot of questions to ask you, but time is running out, and I am so mindful of your time and the audience time. I know we thought to give them only 20 minutes from now on, not 30 minutes, although it's all inspiring and insightful. Where can people find you? What's your website? Well,
yeah, listen, my website is just my name, BrendaBence.com, BENCE.com. Yeah, BrendaBence.com. I'm on social media, obviously LinkedIn. I do a lot of the posting there, all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all that. So feel free to connect with me that way. I always love that. Of course, I'd love folks to check out my books, and they're all online as well. So, and The Forgotten Choice.
Is this your favorite book?
I have a favorite book, and it's this one.
This one.
It is this one, yeah. I mean, I love all my books. They've been amazing, and I've always been so grateful to be able to write them. But this one, there's just something about this one.
What's special about this child of yours?
Most of my books have taken about a year to write, and most of it is kind of a reflection of what I've already been doing. And in the outer world, right? talk about leadership and leading others and leading yourself and mastering your own brand. And those are all really powerful, important topics. And I've talked on those and written on those for literally over a decade. But this is special. It took me 4 years, and it really took me to a higher height of writing. It took me to a higher height of self-awareness, took me to a higher height of what I was willing to open up and talk about and share with others in the hopes that it's helpful for them and as it has been helpful for me. So yes, this is really a special baby.
These pyramids you created yourself, or this is based on a different psychology?
Actually, the pyramid structure itself I created. Basically, this is cognitive behavioral therapy. You know, it's funny, cognitive behavioral therapy, if you know anything about it, it's actually typically used for mental patients, people who are considered mad or considered crazy, right? But I figure if we're spending most of our life in fear, we're pretty crazy. When we have a choice, right? We have a choice between fear and joy possibility, but we typically choose fear. And so I figure that we qualify as needing some help mentally. So all of us need some help mentally, I think.
Yeah, I definitely doubt. Is this part of positive psychology?
You know, I'm always cautious with is the whole concept of positive and negative. I really avoid that language completely. And the reason I avoid it is because I don't think fear and joy possibility is that at all. In fact, I think it's dangerous to think of it as positive and negative. And remember earlier I mentioned there are those masqueraded fears that we don't even. Thinking positively is one of them.
Tell me more.
Think positively, scream the gurus. You can think positively, just think positively. But often what thinking positively does is kind of sprinkles fairy dust all over the problem because we're trying to, the fear of we're trying to hide the problem. So thinking positively can actually be very dangerous to us. What we need to do is be, again, that objective, realistic outsider looking down at it, saying, what's really going on here? Step out of the place of emotion around it, get into that space of objectivity and look at it from that perspective. And then get into that place of possibility. Possibility. What could come from this? That's all you have to ask yourself.
That is beautiful. The book is The Forgotten Choice.
Thank you. So sorry you don't have a real copy there. We'll have to get you a real copy, Abe.
Well, yeah, I'm waiting for that, but thank you for sending this. And the author is Brenda Bence. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Abe. It's been such a joy to connect. I appreciate it.
Most welcome.